Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Athletic School podcast. Today, guest is Angela R. Lewis, former Division One and pro basketball player, championship coach, author, and now head of operations at Speaker Hub. She helps athletes and leaders grow through mindset, leadership, and life transitions. In this conversation, we'll talk about leading yourself first, turning sports skills into life success, and how letting go can create new opportunities. Angela, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat today.
Well, to begin with, why do you think it's important that we lead ourselves first before we lead others?
I think it's important that we lead ourselves first because we are with ourselves every single day. And if we aren't, in order to build confidence individually, it's because we keep our commitments to ourselves. So if we're not keeping commitments to ourselves, how can we expect someone else to follow our lead? Because they're watching. So leading ourselves is essential.
Mhm. Quick break before we get back to the show. First of all, thank you so much for listening to the Athletic School podcast. It means the world to me. Second, in whatever platform you might be listening to this, if you could hit that follow or subscribe button, that would mean the world to me as well. It's just the beginning, but it already feels like something special. And if you do that, I promise you that with all my energy, I'll bring the best guest speaker as possible and I'll keep sharing all the lessons I have learned through this journey to make you a better person on and off the field. Now, let's get back to the show. Yeah. And what do you mean when you say a lead from the inside out? Can you give an example for us?
Sure. Yeah. This is about mindset. This is really about mindset and how do we think about challenging situations. For example, if you're in a game and you've missed a bunch of shots, what are you telling yourself? Are you saying, oh, I'm not good. I'm sucked today. Like, I'm a terrible player. Or do you pick yourself up and say, okay, let me correct that. Let me ask for guidance. Let me try it again. And this time I believe I can make it because I've done the work. So leading from the inside out is really about what are we telling ourselves? And then how do the voice that we tell ourselves show up in our actions and values?
hmm And I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of athletes that are listening to us that they don't have that type of positive self talk when they're talking to themselves after a mistake. Um, what do you think they could do in order to become more aware and then improve that self-talk, because we all know it's complicated once you make the mistake. Yeah, I wish I just said this to myself and not something harmful, but at the end of the day sometimes it's complicated. Is there anything that maybe you did, maybe you something that you teach that people can start doing once they realize that that self-talk's not there?
Yes, great question. So, I was coaching an athlete and we were talking about how do you know that you can actually make the shot or do well on the next play? Using the example before, if you missed a lot, what makes you confident that you actually can do it? And it only comes from remembering the work that you put in. So I don't believe that someone should be confident if they haven't actually done the work and have proven to themselves over and over again that they're capable. So the truth is, Igor, you might be in a valley and you might actually just need to go work harder in order to get better. Like we talk about self-talk as positive self-talk as if you should always be positive, but you should always really be honest. So if you haven't worked out and if you're eating, cheeseburgers and fries every day and watching Netflix, no, you shouldn't be confident that you can do well because you haven't done the work. So
Mhm.
sometimes it's about getting better. Other times it's about remembering the work that you've done in order to believe that it's possible to accomplish whatever the goal is.
hmm And that brings us to my next question when it comes to values. How can someone stay true to their values, especially when things get hard and or maybe confusing as well? Because I feel like maybe my value is to go to be consistent, right, and go work out every single day, let's say, but then I wake up tired, and how do I go to the gym, how do I go work out even though I'm tired?
This is one of the biggest challenges that athletes and humans in general have. is fighting against how I feel versus what really needs to be done. And we all go through this. There's a couple things you can do to help maintain the values that you set forth. Give me the example that you did of, well, what do I do when I'm tired? One, accountability. Is there someone at the gym that's going to meet you there? If you know that you're the type of person that needs accountability, then set your life up to where there's someone who's going to meet you there, someone who's expecting you to show up for them. That's part one. Part two is you're going to mess up. Like there are days you're not going to go, but then get back on it the next day. It is illogical to think that you're going to do it right every single time. The problem comes, Igor, is when we don't give ourselves an understanding that we're human. So you're going to make mistakes, and then we beat ourselves up for not being perfect. That's just, it's not realistic. And so, one, have someone be there with you. And two, if you mess up, get right back after it the next day.
Yeah. What are some things that people can do in order to build that consistency, that resilience that you said, in terms of like, okay, I messed it up. So how do I get up from that? Is there anything that maybe you did that people can do as well?
The one thing that helps you get up is keeping that big vision in front of you. So behind my laptop, there's a dry erase board. So the vision is right in front of me every day. And so the way that you get up is seeing something greater for yourself and knowing that whatever your values are, they have to align with that vision. So for example, I hate running. Like I hated running, absolutely hated it. But I knew I had to be in shape to play ball. So you get up and you go run. And you do it in the preseason and the off season, even though it doesn't feel good. But that's the only way because it's not going to be fun. But you have to do it if you want to get to where you say you want.
Um, since I started working with athletes, and especially like high school athletes or even a little younger, like eighth graders and stuff, some of the times they don't know what they want. Um, and I think that becomes tricky because they don't know if they want to go to college, they don't know if they want to go professional, they don't even know if they want to play in high school. If sometimes they are, they're having a hard time, they're thinking about not doing it because it's getting hard. um, what those athletes can do in order to come up with a conclusion, come up with a
Yes.
vision that like, okay, I want to play college, so this is what I have to do. Because I feel like, yeah, we can talk about the vision and stuff, but I
Mm-hmm.
think the reality is like a lot of people don't even have a vision. So how can we have that vision?
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. So here's what you can do. This is what I teach as part of my framework. The first thing is your vision, your initial vision is an idea. Just as you know, just saying you want to go do something doesn't mean it's going to happen. I'm 6'1". I've been this tall since I was 12 years old. And and I didn't necessarily think about college ball. I was just asked to play on the team. Well, then I started hearing, well, maybe you could get a college scholarship. But just saying it didn't make it happen. So here's what you do. You look at the possible people who are where you want to be. So you need to use someone else. You need someone to look up to. We need like a model of what's possible. So the kids you're working with, there are people who are already playing college. Okay, great. What did it take for them to get there? So then they had to work out this much, do these things. And then they get to decide if they want to pursue the next step. Because you don't jump from being an eighth grader to a college athlete. There are levels to it. So instead of saying, oh, I want to only get to the top level, when I was seventh grade, I want to go to college. It's like, no, well, let me be a better player in the eighth grade. Okay. Well, what does it take to be a little bit better in the eighth grade? Well, let me be a little bit better in the ninth grade. A lot of times, Igor, as adults, we ask kids to decide their whole lives at 12, and they're like, I don't know. I want to be an influencer or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's another story. But it's just the next step is of the vision is more important than the big vision because it takes all the little steps to get to the big step.
Hmm. And I think what you're saying, it goes back to a lot of like self-awareness, right? Because I think that's a huge thing, especially that's something that I've learned since I moved to the US, and I see a lot of athletes and student athletes not having that self-awareness. So how can someone start becoming more self-aware in their daily life?
Easiest way to get more self-aware, specifically for athletes, is go and compete against the best. Put yourself in the room with people better than you, and it will let you know how good you are or are not, and what potential opportunities you have. So I can say that I'm great, but if I've never competed against the girl who's definitely playing Division 1 basketball, I don't know how good I am. So you have to be in a room with the best in your industry or field to be able to determine where you are. And you'll get very clear very fast.
Mhm. One of the things that I try helping athletes here in the athletic school is that transition when they stop playing, uh, go into the business world, or maybe just dealing with life, right? Because sometimes we see ourselves, we think we are athletes, but we forget that we are human beings first. Um, you play Division 1, you went professional, you went to other countries. So what's uh what's the most powerful lesson you've learned from sports that you apply to your life today in the business world?
This is the most powerful and painful lesson that I learned from sport that I apply in the business world is that you're going to be really bad when you start. Like you have no idea what you're getting into. When you first start playing sports, no one wakes up and is a Division 1 player. No one walks out and is an NBA or a WNBA player. You actually have to be very bad, work hard, get feedback, get better. And so athletes who are in transition in whatever point in their lives, give yourself time to learn business, learn sales, learn marketing, learn product development. You just have to give yourself a chance to learn. And it's so hard because you're used to being good and excelling. So give yourself grace and time to get better and get a coach. That always helps.
For sure. And how can athletes, when we are playing, we use a lot of teamwork, we have discipline, resilience, and leadership a lot of the times as well. um, how can they use that off the field? Let's say they are playing, maybe they are not even in the business world yet. How they can use some of those skills that we learn in sports and start applying on their lives. That way, maybe once they get to the business world, they don't have to suffer or suck as much. You know what I mean?
Yes, the best tip I have in how to apply the skills is seeing yourself as a part of a team and looking at your skills. So maybe you're naturally charismatic and you're naturally inquisitive. So maybe sales or something in terms of communication may be best for you. The best thing is to get an assessment of your skills. You can use Strengths Finder. There's a number of different discs assessment. There's a number of different assessments, but doing that will help you see kind of where you are and then help you understand what teammates you need to build around you to help you accomplish your goals.
Hmm. And what would you say to an athlete that, at the end of the day, they're feeling lost? They maybe they played, they didn't play well, or maybe they did play well, but they don't feel fulfilled. What would you tell them? How they can transfer some of the skills that they have, uh, you know, in the sports to their lives?
Look, feeling lost is normal. So first I would say, welcome to the club. Everyone everyone who has been an athlete and everyone in general that I know personally has felt lost at some point in their life, especially when you're transitioning from one level to the next or from one part of your life to another. It is par for the course. Like you're going to feel lost. A few ways to get back on track or not feel quite as lost. One is to remember why you started doing whatever it is you're doing. Like you got to get to the core of your love for the game, if it's sports related, or two, the core of why you're pursuing the next thing that you're doing. And allow yourself to get better. Just know that you're not going to be great at everything to start. But if you're willing to work like you were willing to work on the court or in your sport, then you will get better and things will work for you as well.
Hmm. Um, I think everything we were talking about, and an athlete that clicked on these podcasts to listen, they're already looking for ways to get better, right? they are already feeling lost and they know they
Hmm.
need something else. But I feel like a lot of athletes, they are lost, but they don't know what's around them. They don't know how
Yes.
to get the help. How can I reach those athletes? What are they missing? How can we close that gap of knowledge and information? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh my gosh. Like, this is such a great question, especially in the world of over information and so much knowledge. I recommend what what one of my mentors told me. He said, follow your curiosity. There are some things that I could care less about, right? That just don't interest me at all. But then I'm naturally drawn to understanding other things. So look at yourself as the best research project you're ever going to have. What are you naturally interested in? And then find a mentor who understands what it takes to be in that industry. And then the last thing I would say is be willing to get additional help. So maybe you take another course in something. Maybe you research something more to learn about what marketing, right? Whatever your interests are, just it's okay to follow that and stick with it long enough to see it through.
Hmm. Um, and kind of on that subject, what are your thoughts on athletes playing multiple sports growing up?
Ooh, I love this question. There's a lot of controversy around this one.
I know, trust me.
I'm a big believer in, especially when you're young, play multiple sports.
Hmm.
You have different teammates, you use different muscles. It gives your body a break. We see so many ACL tears and injuries from overuse because athletes don't take as many breaks or put as much emphasis on recovery. Big proponent of multiple sports.
Hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, good. I mean, it's hard for me because coming from Brazil, we only play soccer, and
Yeah,
you lived in Colombia, so you know how it
so
is. Like
it's
soccer,
life.
yeah, it's life. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons why Brazil or South American teams or athletes are a little bit better in soccer
Mhm.
than Americans because they simply just spend more time doing it. Uh, on the other hand, you have Americans here that they play multiple sports, right? Um, and they don't spend as much time uh, in whatever sport they're playing. But again, we can look at that from very different points of view. Like
Mhm.
when we look at the Olympics, for example, the US is top one, and I mean, US is always there, and even though they're competing against people from every single country in the world, they still do pretty good. And like they were running track, they were doing all of this. They were swimming and running track and playing soccer and playing football, but they managed to win a Olympic medal. So I don't know. I think it comes to enjoyment. I think it's
Mhm.
important for kids to enjoy a little bit more because if you enjoy, then you're going to enjoy the process. You're going to enjoy the hard work. You're not going to see the hard work as hard work. It's just playing time in a way. So
Yes.
as long as you enjoy, I think you'll be okay. But if you're doing something forced, then it becomes a little tricky, and I don't think you can make it that far. So.
That makes sense. 100%.
So we're talking about you living in Colombia. You went to Colombia to play there. What was the hardest thing for you when you got there? What was the hardest thing for you to let it go here and moving there? Tell me a little bit about that move.
Sure. So I played in Germany. So I went to Germany and played. And then I moved to Colombia. And I went to Colombia initially to do a basketball clinic in a
Okay.
city called Manizales for 4 days. And then ended up moving to Colombia afterwards because I absolutely loved it. I loved the mountains and the fresh mango juice and the climate. The hardest thing for me was learning language. I didn't speak Spanish much before. So language was there. And then culturally, there are things that were just different. It was a slower pace. In the US, things are always like, you're
Hmm.
going, you're going, you're going. So it was nice to be able to decompress from that way of being and living and move at a much slower pace. which was amazing. I highly recommend, if possible, if you can live in another country, to go do it. If people, not you, I know you have.
Yeah, but you went to Germany first.
I did.
How was that move to Germany? Because I mean, Germany is very different than Colombia, and they're all very different from the US as well. So,
Yes, Germany was exponentially different because in the US, in the city I grew up in, I heard Spanish and I was slightly, I took Spanish in school, so I was somewhat
right.
familiar, but German was a completely different language, completely
Yeah.
different foods and culture, and it was very different. But the experience was amazing. The experience was amazing, just meeting people from different cultures. So I saw castles for the first time, which I hadn't seen before. So that was very unique.
Um, and what was your emotions? How was your mental and emotional state when you were moving place to place?
Moving
Um,
from mhm.
yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
moving from place to place, there's this combination of excitement and fear that kind
Mhm.
of clash at the same time. It's the excitement of the newness, but the fear that, oh, like my family and friends aren't here with me. And how do you prepare for emergencies if there's something like that going on? But once you get a rhythm, once you find a rhythm, then things become a lot better. Finding the grocery stores, the pharmacy, getting connected to community, all of that makes those experiences much better and easier.
Mhm. Do you think moving to those countries open your mind or maybe open new doors for you in businesses, in life in general?
100% opened my mind, my heart, my spirit. I think we take wherever we've traveled with us, wherever we go. Germany, especially, one of my best friends to this day played basketball there, and we would have never met had we not been in Germany at the same time. In my family, Igor, we traveled two places growing up: Memphis, Tennessee, which is about 5 hours south of St. Louis, and Mound Bayou, Mississippi, which is an hour and a half south of Memphis, Tennessee. So not only did going to Germany and Colombia and other places open up my world, it opened up the possibilities for my family, because people only traveled if they were in the military. No one traveled to play basketball, and definitely not for leisure to places like that. So our lives really, really can be an example for others as well.
Mhm. For sure. And there's a lot of international students listening to the podcast. People from Brazil, people from there's actually a lot of people in Germany that listen to the podcast. I didn't know, but that was very cool to see. And I think the biggest thing that people have a hard time is letting it go, right? Letting you go to your family, the comfortable zone that you are in,
Hmm.
where mommy is doing everything for you. You have dad to go fix your car, grandma, grandpa, just family in general. Because when you move
Yeah.
to another country, you don't have any of that. And a lot of people have a hard time letting you go those things. And sometimes I've seen people that move, but then they move it back because they just can't handle or they cannot just let it go completely. The distance in a way, or
Hmm.
something that they lived in. I moved here when I was 19, and it's complicated, it's hard because you lived in a way for 19 years and then you're supposed to figure out in a week you know
Yes.
um so I mean, why do you think people struggle to let it go so much? And for these people that struggle to let it go, what would you tell them?
This is so good and so important. One, people who struggle to let it go, I would say give yourself time. You're not going to have it all figured out. I like to say, okay, let me give it a year. Like, let's just see what happens. Let me give it some time. The second thing, before you go to wherever you're going, connect with community. I mean, there are tons of groups. There's a WhatsApp group for women in Colombia that I was a part of. So find your community before you get there. Then a lot of the hard things to figure out, you don't have to worry about, because they already went through it. They can help you with that. And the third piece, for those who struggle to let it go, try to take small pieces of where you're from with you to create a sense of normalcy. So maybe it's like this sweater from your mom, or this trinket from your dad, or the picture of your niece or nephew, that helps it feel more like home. Then last piece of advice on letting go is inviting your people to come visit you. So before you go, try to line up family and friend visits to give you something to look forward to. I loved when my people came to visit me. It was the absolute best. So have visitors. Okay. Then the second part of your question was, I'm sorry, I don't remember the second part. I was
No,
excited about the first part.
like, yeah, I think you
Did I
answered though.
answer? Okay.
Yeah, it's just like for me, I think people have a hard time letting it go, and I
Yeah.
think you said like bringing something with you. I think that makes a lot of sense. And if there was something that I would do different when I moved, it was actually that not only bringing stuff with me, but having people come visit me
Yes.
instead of me going to visit them, because
Yes.
it felt like I was missing out every time I was going home, and I didn't want
Mm-hmm.
to. But it would be so
Yes.
much easier if they would come to me.
Y- And if they can, the quicker they can come, the better. So when I went to Colombia, I moved down March of 2021. In April, my cousin came. So within a month of being there, I saw someone I'd known my whole life because he's my big cousin. So if you can line someone up to see you soon, that would be great. Find your community, that helps exponentially. And then if you don't have community, go on those group tours. They're always full of people who
Mhm.
aren't from there. So you can find some community there.
What was the decision to move to first to Germany to go play, and then to Colombia? What was going through your mind? Like, why did you decide to make that move?
For Germany, Igor, I had graduated college and I knew I wanted to keep playing. They could have told me that I could play basketball on the moon and I would have went. I was like, where's the rocket ship? I will go play anywhere where they'll have me. And so I had an agent who was German and she sent my game film to a team and they said that they wanted me to go. And so I started packing and went to Germany to play ball. Like it was all about basketball. And all of my big moves, ironically, have been for sport. In Colombia, it's a little different. It was right after the pandemic and the world had started to open up in 2020.
Mhm.
And I got a DM on Facebook from a basketball coach who I knew for years. And he told me that he was coaching a team in Manizales, Colombia, and they were looking for people to help train. And so I flew to Colombia. I had friends that lived in Medellin, and I went to Medellin, visited my friends, then went to Manizales to do the clinic. Came back to Medellin, Igor, and I was like, oh, I'm moving here. This is beautiful. It was the mountains, it was the weather, it was the fresh mango juice, it was the salsa dancing, it was the culture and the opportunity to help women's basketball kind of expand in other parts of the world. All of
Mhm.
that drew me. And so it's sport again, like basketball is my connection to everything on earth.
And I mean, of course, it might be a simple question for you, but why did you not stay in the US to play? Was the opportunity for Germany came first, or why
Yeah.
not stay in the US?
The opportunity for Germany was there. It
Hmm.
was an opportunity to play. And I think I didn't know this at 21, but what I know about me now is that I'm an explorer. Like I love to travel and see new things and I'm not afraid that something's going to go wrong. So going there wasn't I didn't think about not going. Once the opportunity came, it was just done.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people that feel stuck in a way, and they think that, and we have that a lot in Brazil. They think they have to come to the US. They think they
Mm,
have to move somewhere else uh, in order to feel unstuck, or to be successful and all of that. Um, what advice would you give to people that feel stuck, but
sure.
maybe they are scared to take a big step like that?
I would say be honest with yourself about what you need to feel safe and secure. I'll give you an example. I have a friend who would never travel abroad alone. She wants to be in her house and decorate her house. And that is amazing for her. That would make me feel trapped. Like that makes me feel trapped. It makes her feel safe and secure. We're two totally different personalities. And I know we live in the world where everyone's on Instagram posting about where they're going, but everyone shouldn't go. Like it may not make sense. And you just have to know that about yourself. So if you feel stuck, experiencing new things opens your mind and helps create more creativity and exposure. I think that's important, but you don't necessarily have to go to the other side of the world to do that if that's not your thing.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I just did a podcast on that. There's a story called The Acres of Diamonds. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but
No.
it's basically this guy, he has a big farm, and then he hears that a lot of people are um, finding diamonds and making a lot of money with diamonds. So he decided to sell his farm and go around the world looking for diamonds. And so he ended up dying poorly because he spent all the money from his farm. He could not find any diamonds and any of that. Um, what ended up happening, the guy that bought the farm from him was one day at the farm, and then he saw something bright, and of course it was a diamond.
It's right. Always there.
And
Yep.
yeah, and then he ended up being one of the biggest diamond mines in the world right there. So he was sitting on it.
Yep.
Um,
Oh, that's
and
good.
yeah, and then I think there's a lot of lessons that we can take from that. And I did a podcast just about that. But a lot of the times, like you said, we don't have to go to across the world to find happiness, to find fulfillment, and I see a lot of people doing that, and they spend money, they waste time and all of that. But at the end of the day, they could have stayed at home and doing something just as meaningful for them. So I
Yes.
think, yeah, I think it's huge. I think it's not for everybody, and it's okay if it's not for you. You have to do whatever you feel more secure and comfortable. Of course, we have to get uncomfortable in order to get the things that we want. But at the end of the day, like, what's gonna make you happy?
Yeah, yeah, 100%, and life will make you uncomfortable if you try or not. Like you don't have to work too hard to be uncomfortable in this life. Things will happen that will force you to grow that
Yeah,
you don't expect. That
everything is hard. Everything is hard. Going across
Mhm.
the world is hard. Staying at home is hard as well. So yeah.
Yep. There will be
Um,
challenges.
Yeah. If there was one thing you hope people take away from this conversation, what would it be?
If there's one thing that I hope people take away from this conversation, it would be give yourself time to get better. Give yourself time. I was talking to a friend who's younger than me. She's like a little sister. And she's like, I just want it right now. She's in her early 30s. Like, I just want everything that I want for my life right now. But it doesn't work that way. You don't plant a seed and then get apples off the tree tomorrow. You don't plant an apple. So give yourself time to trust the process and stay with it.
Hmm. What would you change about the sports world in general? What's something that you think athletes don't know and they should know?
Oh, that's big. What's one thing I would change about the sports world?
Yeah,
And
or maybe something that just athletes
mhm.
are missing in general, or maybe I don't know. Maybe it comes to sports organizations. Whatever you can think of that you would change. What would you change?
I think the most important skill that athletes can learn is communication. It You already have influence. You already have people who know you, like you, and trust you. If you can learn how to communicate effectively off the court in terms of who you are, what your goals are, and connect with people, there's you have so many opportunities to come your way.
But let's say I'm a freshman in high school, and I play basketball. I'm very introverted. I want to play basketball in the NBA, and I don't have very good communication skills. Why should I care about communication skills? Why should I talk to, how to talk?
That's such a good question because in every aspect of your life, in terms of career, interpersonal relationships, you're going to have to be able to communicate who you are, what you want, how you can help others, and listen. It is a critical skill for life. And if you're a freshman in high school, you're going to need help. So you're going to have to be able to talk to your coaches. For those who are introverted, I'm glad you brought that up. It's just practice. So communication isn't something that is bestowed upon people. You practice. if you knew how much I've practiced from speeches in the mirror, on podcasts, talking to friends, like you just practice it. It's any other skill that you can develop. So that can take away some of the fear if you know you can get better.
Yeah, 100%. Angela, thank you so much for joining me and sharing all those things. And I think a lot of people can take a lot from that. I think your path is very unique. You got to play D1 here in the US, which a lot of international students don't get to do that. But then you went somewhere else, and you had that move, and now you're helping other people, not only do the same, but find the
Yeah.
right path for themselves. So thanks for all you do. I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. This has been a fun conversation. I've enjoyed it.
Where can people find you on maybe social media? Is there anywhere that the people can connect with you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram, the Angela R. Lewis on Instagram. If you want to reach out on LinkedIn and talk about trainings, Angela R. Lewis. And then my website is angelarlewis.com.
Okay. One last thing. If you could name one book for athletes that they should read.
One book for athletes that they should read. You know what comes to mind is my book, The Game Changing Assist, 6
Yeah.
Simple Ways to Choose Success. You should read that one. That one's going to
Okay.
be good. Give you a good framework for life.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.